And, night after night, they would get up in the middle of the night and see what was happening. Every night, they would see a duende sleeping there on the chest. And after this happened for about a week, they decided to tell the parents. The parents, again, Central South American culture, all these towns seem to have a healer. You had 2 stories that had this. Yeah. Same with this one. They went down to the local healer. They said, "This is what's happening. We're seeing a duende on our son," and he confirmed, "Yes, that's what it is." And what's happening is, as a duende is resting on the child's chest, it is draining the boy's energy. Yeah. Not maliciously. It's just, what happened. So he performed a few rituals and whatnot, and I'm not sure, they probably gave it an offering, and that was it. He stopped sleeping on the chest. The boy recovered. He was fine. But they say that to this day, and this may have been a couple of years ago, but still almost 20 years later, the duende still appears at the house. Nothing bad, nothing malicious, yeah. But they see all the time. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
No, that is.
Yeah, and that's the story that I saw. We're talking about the Pudgewookies. They had powers, right? They could shapeshift, yeah. They could turn invisible, they could summon magic arrows. Never saw anything about the duende having powers or anything like that. They're just small cryptids. So when I saw that one about the energy draining, that was the only thing I ever saw remotely close to a power or anything like that. So, but still, I thought that was very interesting.
No, that's a good story. I didn't see anything about that either, man. Like I don't know how they're getting in and out of the wall, in and out of the walls or whatever, but like I never saw anything about how they like just blinked out, right? So
yeah. So very interesting.
Yeah.
So that's one story. My second story, Jay, you're proud of me. I was on the street and I did some investigative journalism here. You ready?
Yeah,
this one's good.
I'm ready.
So a few weeks ago, as you know, I was on vacation. I went down to Florida. Was visiting a buddy of mine who's down there, and so I was down there. And you had told me just before I left that we were going to be doing this episode, mm-hmm. and that it was about this creature, the duende, South American culture. So I was okay. I didn't really know anything about it at that time. I hadn't done any research. But I go down there. I'm on vacation visiting my friend, and when I'm down there, I meet his new girlfriend. I don't know what, Sarah, whatever it is. This woman who he's seeing, and she is very recently moved up here from Colombia.
Oh, that's.
And
did you warn him?
He knows. He's aware. He's already aware.
Because if you ever see, what's that sign for help? What's that sign? Because
I don't know.
But if you ever see me do that, Steve.
Mm-hmm. I know. We're never safe. None of us.
Never safe. Never safe.
But yeah, so this woman, I'm just going to call her Maria. I'm not going to try and dox anyone here on the show. Maria, she's new to the country, doesn't really speak a lot of English, but as you know, I do speak some Spanish. So her and I were able to communicate quite a bit during my trip down there. And one of the days we were hanging out, I just straight up asked her. I said, "Do you know about duendes?" And she kind of looked at me, like she kind of gave me like an eye, like, "How do you know? How does this little gringo here know about duendes?" I'm like, "Don't worry about that. Just tell me." And she's like, "Of course, yeah. She knows all about them. She, like she said, she's grown up knowing about them. Very common folklore down there." So I was pleased to hear that she knew about them. And then I asked her. I said, "Have you yourself ever encountered or know anyone that has an encounter?" And she told me, and this is through my very basic Spanish understanding that I heard this story, so I tried to grasp what I could. She told me that she herself has never experienced a duende, never seen one before. But she told me about her grandmother. Her grandmother had always told her a story from when the grandmother was a little girl. And from what I understood, the grandmother lived in Colombia, down in, I'm not sure exactly where, but in some small village. They had their cows and their chickens and all this kind of thing, small little, almost cottage-like place. And it was her parents. And the mother died very young. So it was Maria's grandmother and her father living alone in this little cottage. And as I'm sure you can imagine, I don't know, 70, 80 years ago in a small village in Colombia, life's not easy.
No,
Um,
we got just to give everybody. You got well water and maybe a little bit of electricity.
Yeah.
And then that's back Colombia. If you're not familiar with the term a rolling brownout, that's where they shut the power grid down like a Hunger Games clock to because they don't have enough. So yeah, that's probably what they were experiencing. And air conditioning just showed up in Colombia like 3 months ago. So
Yeah, and so this is, like I said, this is probably back in like the 40s or 50s, from what I could tell from what she was saying. So now it's just the grandmother as a small girl and the grandmother's father, and so the father's out all day. He's tending to the animals. He's doing whatever his job is. He's very busy, right, all the time. And she's just a little girl. Really, not a whole lot of time for house upkeep, to keep things tidy, things like that. Even just cooking is done very quickly. But so soon after the mother died, and they're on their own, and the father's having struggles kind of keeping things together in the house, they woke up one morning and they noticed that things were just kind of cleaned up around the house.
oh man,
Right?
yeah.
Floors kind of swept. She said some other things, but I couldn't quite understand. But just the idea that the house was kind of tidied up, and they kind of were wondering, well, the girl didn't do it because she was so young. She's not taking care of the house, and the father's so busy. He didn't do it. So what is happening? So over time, this kept happening. They wake up every so often, and the house was tidied up when they woke up, and they had no idea what did it. And she says that the grandmother says one night she woke up in the middle of the night and she heard something out in, not in the bedroom area, but the other common area of the house. And she swore she saw a little man, as she says, kind of fixing things around the house.
Wow.
So, yeah, I thought that was pretty wild.
That is wild, man. That is wild, bro. Yeah, that is wild, man. So yeah, my wife's from Colombia, right? And she had a grandmother that lived in the city, and she had a grandmother that lived out out what you were describing. And she in the summertime she would go out into the country, and she had told me stories about how remote those like that's 3 hours to a doctor, right? That's I mean it's like you don't even there's no even today it's like 3 hours to a doctor, right? It's not even a clinic, right? So yeah, man, that's cool. Wow.
Yeah, pretty well.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Hey, good on you, man. That's why you're a company, man. You know what I'm saying? That's why you're on the payroll, son. That's why you're on the payroll right there.
Love it.
All right, man. Good stuff, bro. All right, so
yeah.
Now you ready to talk about how to get rid of these jokers?
Yes, but before I do, one thing that I had in my notes that I forgot about, and it's been on my head there's something weird. I don't know if you saw this, but I actually saw this in multiple locations when reading about the Duendes. And it's kind of strange. The ones that live in the homes, in the walls, there are many reports that in the middle of the night, they like to wake up and clip the children's toenails and eat toenail clippings.
No, I didn't see that.
Did you see that?
No.
I saw that in a few spots, and I think that's kind of weird.
All right, then.
Subscribe now and turn on the notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.